Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Raiders Daily. My name is Jackson. I post daily Raiders content, so be sure to hit that like button, hit that sub button if you guys enjoy it. Now, I know we're still a ways away from the NFL draft, but truthfully, I can't wait. I know you guys can't wait either. The Las Vegas Raiders have the 7th pick in the draft, and as more time goes on, as the time passes by, I keep getting so enticed with the idea, with the possibility of taking a superstar stud at quarterback with pick number 7. Now, part of the reason for this video tonight is because I saw a tweet from LV Gully, and here it was. Lesson for Raiders fans while watching the Bengals: drafting well is key. Cincy's lineup last night included wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, and RB1 all draft picks. You can't miss consistency in the draft and succeed. Subpoint having all of that with quarterback on rookie deal. Why the Bengals went from 4-11 in 2020 to 2 straight AFC championship games and a Super Bowl. Quick turnarounds can happen with the right moves, and I agree fully. And it had me go back to the Raiders draft this past year. And keep in mind, they gave up quite a bit of assets in the big rounds, in the major rounds, for Davante Adams, and their first pick came with Dylan Parham out of Memphis, and I really liked the pick. I still like the pick. Now, this isn't going to be like a draft recap video, but for example, Zamir White went round 4. They actually traded up a little bit for him, and this is one of the guys I was so excited about heading into the season, and so far it just hasn't panned out. Now, granted, Josh Jacobs had a career year, and I hope he is back in a Raider uniform next year. But I keep seeing these articles, and we've talked about it time and time again. Tom Brady won't be a Raider. It's just not going to happen. Tom Brady won't be a Raider. Aaron Rodgers, I think, is a little bit more understandable. However, if you really break it down, why would an NFC quarterback who's a Hall of Famer, i.e. Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, whoever, why would they want to come to the AFC where you have to deal with, in this specific division, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and Russell Wilson twice a year? And that's not even it. You got Patrick Mahomes, who's, they're the Chiefs are the number 1 team. You have Josh Allen. You have Joe Burrow. The list just goes on. Lamar Jackson. The list goes on and on. There's all these studs at quarterback in the AFC. I just have a hard time believing that the Raiders are going to make a trade for Aaron Rodgers and that he's going to want to go to the Raiders as far as just, staying in the NFC North, a division for the most part he's dominated his whole career. And then with Tom Brady, the same thing applies. They just made the playoffs at 8 and 9. Tom Brady's not going anywhere. If he's going to go anywhere, it would be in the NFC. And he's just not leaving. They made the playoffs, and they have a home division. They have a home wild card game because they won their division at 8 and 9. Tom Brady's not coming to the Raiders. So whether or not you want Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady on the Raiders, while those aren't necessarily, I'm not itching to get those cats, I do think if they were to come to the Raiders, if the Raiders were to trade for either or, they would make them better. I won't disagree with that, but long term, is it in the Raiders' best interest? Not necessarily. Then you start getting into the alternatives, and it's, we talked about Lamar Jackson a couple of days ago. It's going to take an arm and a leg as well, just like the other 2 guys, and it comes with a lot of issues as well. We've talked about Mac Jones. I'm not quite sure what Mac Jones offers me. I would rather draft a guy at 7. We've talked about Jimmy Garoppolo. These guys, I'm sure Mac Jones and Jimmy G would be fine, especially with their affiliation to the Las Vegas Raiders, but I'm really truthfully not dying for either of those guys. It's such an interesting dilemma, but honestly, it's not really that much of a dilemma. I feel like the Raiders, having the 7th round pick, they're kind of in the driver's seat here. And if you have a guy like Davante Adams, if you have the best wide receiver in the league, if you have guys like Darren Waller, a top consistent when healthy tight end, Hunter Renfrow, just put some money into the offensive line. As just time goes on, I'm starting to lean more towards drafting a quarterback. Now, we'll wait and see what happens. Here are the top ranked or scouted quarterbacks in this upcoming draft class that the Raiders should be able to have an ability for, whether they take them at 7 or whether they were to trade up. We've seen some rumors. We'll talk about it. We still have a couple of months until the NFL draft. We've seen some rumors because the Chicago Bears seem pretty set on Justin Fields, that number 1 draft pick could be up for grabs. And I'm open to the idea. I don't really think that's in the Raiders' best interest, but we'll wait and see. Coming in at number 1, you got the guy at Alabama, Bryce Young, projected to go to the Houston Texans. Number 2, you have Will Levis. To be quite honest with you guys, I'm not huge on Will Levis. Just all of these quarterbacks, except for maybe C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, and Anthony Richardson, if the Raiders were to get, it would be all right. Like if Will Levis were to get drafted by the Raiders at 7, it would be okay. I'm open to the idea of it, but I'm not an NFL scouter. I'm not an NFL GM, so take it with a grain of salt. But Will Levis isn't my favorite guy. I think typically when you have seniors in college at the quarterback position, I kind of anticipate domination. Especially with the hype he was given, and that's not really what I saw from Will Levis this past year at Kentucky. C.J. Stroud, I understand that Ohio State quarterbacks, they have this rep for good reason for not. It just doesn't correlate to the NFL, and I understand that. However, I do think C.J. Stroud's a little bit different. I really like the comparisons to him in the playoffs with Justin Herbert in the Rose Bowl back when he was at Oregon. Playing within a system. And they let him loose in the Rose Bowl, and he just unleashed. He completely unleashed. That's kind of what we saw from C.J. Stroud this past year in the playoffs, and we especially saw with moving his feet. I like a little bit of a mobile quarterback. I don't necessarily need a completely mobile quarterback, but I like somebody who can extend drives with his feet. So I love C.J. Stroud at number 7. Like, I absolutely love it. Getting a little bit past it, it depends on where you're looking at. You got Hooker, you got McKee. My favorite is Anthony Richardson. Outside of those top 3 cats, I think Anthony Richardson just has that it factor. His rookie season, he might be a little bit inconsistent, so he might not be the best choice for the Raiders, especially at number 7. But I think his upside is the highest out of, you could argue, any quarterback. So I'm really curious to hear what Raiders fans have to say about drafting a QB at number 7. Ideally, I just love the idea of having Davante Adams, Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller, and having a quarterback, a franchise quarterback, under contract, under a rookie contract, and just putting a ton of money into the defense. A ton of money, a ton of draft capital. It's just kind of enticing to me. I really like the idea of any of those 4 quarterbacks over like a Jimmy G. Jimmy G just doesn't do it for me. Mac Jones, it just doesn't do it for me. And like I said, 2 of the top dogs, Tom Brady and Rodgers, that are rumored to be available in trade or whatever, I just don't really think that's conceivable. So let me know what you guys are thinking. As always, hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily Raiders content, and I will see you guys later. But yeah, I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say. So drop a comment down below. Peace.